Justimon, the hero of, well, justice. Best known as the bio-merged partner of Ryo Akiyama in Digimon Tamers, where he assists Takato, Henry, and Rika in defeating the D-Reaper. Wielding the Blitz, Excel, and critical arms, Justimon leaps into battle and overwhelms its opponents with its sheer fighting prowess. In the TCG, we got our first Justimon proper in EX2 Digital Hazard. Being a Tamers-themed set, Justimon joined fan favorites like Gallantmon and Beelzemon in a set that was meant to give these Digimon more concrete identities in the game. Of course, not being a main character, Justimon wasn't quite as fleshed out as the rest. Years later, Justimon is getting a reboot, and I think that the Grey Rider finally has what it takes to compete. In the Digimon TCG, Justimon has kept a pretty consistent identity throughout all its rounds of support. Essentially, Justimon is an OTK deck that wants to amass Tamers as a condition for its big finishing play, which is switching between its Blitz, Excel, and critical arms to dish out massive damage while restanding over and over again. Justimon also exists within the larger framework of Cyborg, Machine, and Drummon support, which helps it actually craft a deck due to the relative poverty of its actual tribal cards. In its first few iterations, Justimon, like Dark Knightmon before him, leaned heavily on the D-Brigade engine to help flesh out the deck and give it at least a snowball's chance in hell to compete. And even with the new support incoming, it's pretty hard to build a pure Justimon deck, especially because any card not named Justimon has been pretty bad to date, with maybe one notable exception. Now in Special Booster 2.5, Justimon gets a whole new game plan, revolving around the device option cards and a more control and beatdown oriented approach to things. There are still enough callbacks to the old deck to help glue everything together if you want, but you may be doing more harm than good in that particular situation.
Hi everyone, Vortex TCG here, and today I'm here to give you an overview of how Justimon currently plays in the EX8 Chain of Liberation meta, while also talking about some of the shortcomings the deck has before the release of Special Booster 2.5. In the EX8 meta, Justimon can actually focus on a few different styles for gameplay. For example, you could focus more on the form changes like the Justimon Critical Arm and Excel Arm, which has its own unique gameplay loop. But honestly, it doesn't really do that much at all and has a high likelihood of you bricking on multiple level 6s, which is, safe to say, not fun. I think it's clear that with all the current support we have for Justimon, we can only really go in one direction, and that is winning on one turn, otherwise known as an OTK. Luckily for us, EX8 did provide us with a brand new tool which enables this game plan for us. That card obviously being the Justimon X-Antibody, which has a few things going for it which enables the OTK game plan. It has 3 keywords, but the 2 of which that are important are Rush and Security Attack +1. Rush is extremely useful for when we play a Digimon which can't attack the same turn, or through a card like Black Scramble, which is played within the deck. If we're able to get into the Justimon X-Antibody, we're then able to attack on the turn, which is a nice little bonus that can help us close matches up. Security Attack +1 is also an incredibly good addition, giving our OTK turn much needed consistency and less reliance on other cards in the strategy like the promo Sunrisermon. However, the key part of this card is the when attacking effect, allowing you to activate one when digivolving effect of one Digimon card with Justimon in its name in this Digimon's Digivolution cards. Simply put, this allows us to copy the Justimon Blitz arm when digivolving effect, allowing us to choose one of 3 options, but the most important one in this scenario is unsuspending this Digimon. With the combination of Justimon Blitz arm and Justimon X-Antibody, we can easily do 5 security checks with these 2 cards alone. However, with some additional cards in the stack, like adding the promo Sunrisermon inheritable of Security Attack +1 and attacking with any level 5 in the deck, before going into Justimon Blitz arm, we can consistently remove all 5 security and attack one more time, finishing the game. Now, I've talked a lot about the OTK turn here, So let's give a small tutorial on how to achieve this in the game. For the setup, if your opponent is at 5 security, you will need the promo Sunrisermon as an inheritable in the stack. You'll also need at minimum 2 Tamers in play, one of which is the Marvin Jackson, and his mind link provides us with jamming, giving our stack pseudo protection. First of all, mind link the Marvin Jackson onto the level 5. The level 5 doesn't matter in this scenario, just as long as it's an SOC, cyborg or machine type. With that, you swing at security during your first security check of the turn. Then you digivolve into your Justimon Blitz arm. When digivolving, you can unsuspend the Justimon and then swing at security again. Then, using the Justimon Blitz arm when attacking effect, you can do multiple triggers depending on the amount of Tamers. In all scenarios, you'll unsuspend this Digimon once again and gain DP if you have more than 2 Tamers, hitting the threshold for Sunrisermon inheritable if needed. And with that, that is our second security check. After this, you digivolve into the Justimon X-Antibody from EX8 and then swing at your opponent's security again. This time, you'll be doing 3 checks at security, one from Justimon X's own effect, one from Sunrisermon inheritable because you'll be at 13k DP through the Hopmon egg, and just the normal check. And when attacking, you can then also copy the when digivolving effect of the Blitz arm in your sources to unsuspend the Digimon. And at this point, you have done 5 security checks. And after that, all you need to do is swing one more time, and if you do that, you've won the game. And I'd say that's pretty good OTK turn. Now, while I am singing the praises of Justimon and saying you can OTK your opponent with ease, this deck definitely has its shortcomings. One of the biggest problems this deck has currently is consistency. If you look at any modern Digimon deck, they all have their own specific line of Digimon, and to be fair, Justimon also has its own Digievolution line. However, the last time we got a full Digivolution line was in EX2, which is now obviously extremely outdated. Now, in Special Booster 2.5, we are getting a brand new line, which specifically focuses on the device support. However, this means that you only have now got one updated Digivolution line, whereas most decks have multiple to choose from. What this means for Justimon is that you'll be playing cards that aren't actually connected to the archetype, which can cause issues from a consistency point. You'll see this a lot in the current builds of Justimon, where you see players building Justimon with the skeleton of other archetypes. For example, you see it built with the SOC Doraemon line, which provides the deck an easy way to play a Tamer for free and also provides the stack protection. However, it doesn't gel well with the identity of Justimon, and while there are other decks like the Marvin Jackson SOC support, which definitely fit the deck more, it still has its own teething issues, trying to be a control deck, while for the most part, Justimon has always been about taking huge security swings. And on the topic of playing other Digimon lines to support Justimon, that in itself showcases another issue. The deck lacks identity. If you look at the majority of other meta decks in the format, you can quite easily tell that the majority of them don't lack identity, because those archetypes have been supported and have been around for a long time. I mean, even in the same set of EX2 Digital Hazard, decks like Gallantmon and Sakuyamon have been supported throughout the years, but Justimon never really got that push. And let's just be honest here, in 2025 we don't see Greymon in a Gallantmon deck anymore. You don't see Volcanomon in Jesmon anymore. However, as of right now, Justimon relies on other archetypes just to scrape through, making the deck very fragile in the current game state. I mean, if your opponent has a security bomb essentially waiting in security, your turn ends and your game is essentially over. Just the smallest amount of disruption can destroy this deck. Now, obviously in Special Booster 2.5, that all changes with the device option cards becoming the main identity for Justimon going forward. Hopefully from this point onwards, Bandai supports the new identity for Justimon. However, while we do gain a new direction for the deck in 2.5, it feels like we lose the history of the deck, wiping away EX2 Digital Hazard completely and moving away from the form changes gameplay style the deck previously had. And in the end, Special Booster 2.5 is a huge reset button the deck may or may not needed.
Like I mentioned earlier, Bandai maybe saw that the old way of playing Justimon wasn't really endearing it to everybody, While talented pilots like Vortex TCG can certainly score a win with it, the deck just can't really keep up with the more mechanically complex archetypes out there. So the archetype has been refocused around the 6 device option cards, a new X-Antibody line, and of course, Justimon Ace. Now, as for these device cards that I've been referencing, these are genuinely interesting. They're a series of option cards that function like delay options, but not exactly. Their gimmick is that you can play them regardless of the color requirement, as long as you don't have another copy of them already out. Most will provide the same effect when you first cast them, and when they are trashed from the battle area. They also all have very strong security effects and are arguably some of the best generics in the game, far surpassing what the plug-in cards were way back in EX2. Pawn Device draws 1 and places itself in the battle area, that latter clause being common among all of the devices, and it's the only one with an actual delay effect to trash itself and another non-red option in the battle area to gain 1 memory. Basically, if you don't have the Justimon line to trash your devices, this one can still trigger them. Its security effect nukes a Digimon with 11,000 DP or less and then adds it to hand, which is another clause shared by each device's security effect. Rook Device grants blocker, reboot, and a 2000 DP buff until the end of the opponent's turn, and inflicts D-Digivolve 2 onto 1 Digimon when checked in security. Bishop Device prevents a target Digimon or Tamer from suspending until the end of the opponent's turn, and bottom decks a level 5 or lower when checked in security. Knight Device grants a 4000 DP buff and piercing, and suspends 2 of the opponent's Digimon or Tamers when checked in security. Queen Device inflicts a 3000 DP debuff to an opponent's Digimon, and negates its 1 Digivolving effects until the end of the opponent's next turn. And when checked in security, it gives security attack -2 to 2 Digimon. And finally, King Device basically lets you place any of the other devices from your trash into the battle area, while the security skill lets you place a device from your hand into the battle area. If you ask me, Queen Device is obviously the best by a long shot, providing easy outs to floodgates, other small Digimon, and a way to get around the stubborn immunity of cards like Magnamon X. Pawn Device is solid consistency, and Bishop Device is really useful to lock something down and make it vulnerable without having to jump through hoops like source stripping a target first. The rest of the devices are very situational, but I would still say they're good overall. Now, the fact that 3 of the device cards are promos is a little bit awkward, even though some reprints are incoming. But, you know, we all accept that if you're going to be playing a fan favorite deck at this point, you gotta pay the fan favorite tax at this point. We get a Monodramon Searcher, which looks for cyborgs and dragonkin, and a Ryo Akiyama, or a device card. This 3-cost searcher grabs everything in the archetype and potentially grabs 2 targets, so as far as I'm concerned, it's a fantastic addition. We get a Tamer setter in the Strike Dramon, which has the now default, if you have 1 or fewer Tamers in play, play your archetypal Tamer. And then we get arguably the best card in the entire line. I almost can't believe this card is actually Justimon support. BT19 Cyber Dramon. This is a 7-cost level 5 with 9000 DP, Rush, and Collision. Okay, already off to a good start. When attacking, it trashes an option card in your battle area, not optional, but with the intended playstyle of the new support, understandable. End of your turn, if your opponent has an unsuspended Digimon, this Digimon attacks the player. So to sum it up, this is a kill spell with legs. Oh, and did I mention that it also gives Collision as an inheritable as well? Fantastic card, hands down. We also have the Cyberdramon Ace from the LM promo set. Essentially, on player when digivolving, you search your top 5, play a Black Tamer if there is one, and then if you have a Black Tamer in play, you de-digivolve something by 1. And it gives de-digivolve 1 as a when attacking effect via its inheritable. This is a deceptively good card, and helped the previous version of the deck have one last gasp life. We also get a Cyberdramon X-Antibody, because of course Bandai's answer for every mid-deck is to print an X-Antibody line and pray it's totally broken. This one, well, it's not bad. You have two when digivolving effects. The first lets you place a device option card from your hand or trash into the battle area if you meet the X-Antibody requirements. And the second lets you trash an option card in the battle area to de-digivolve something by 2. Obviously, you can play with the order here, which is pretty handy. The inheritable is good too, allowing you to trash an option card in the battle area to trash the opponent's top security on the swing. And now we can finally get to the Justimons. Yes, plural. Justimon Ace is a very interesting card with the ability to gain blocker and immunity to Digimon effects if it's played or digivolves, and it has a when digivolving and when attacking effect to trash any option card in the battle area, yours or your opponent's, to unsuspend. The fact that you can remove your opponent's delay options is absolutely massive, allowing you to thwart certain checkmate situations or simply throw off your opponent's counter push. Immunity and restanding are also obviously really good, considering the fairly weak stat line on this card and, well, Justimon's general lack of protection across the other cards. And then we have Justimon X, which continues Bandai's latest trend of just slapping 3 keywords on all their new boss monsters. In this case, it's Rush, Security Attack +1, and Piercing, which obviously are pretty good. It has a when attacking effect to trigger the when digivolving effect of a Justimon in its sources, which could let you refresh the immunity from the ace, for example, or restand by trashing an option card anywhere on the field. There's some combo potential with the other Justimon arms as well, but let's be honest, you have better things to be doing. Oh, and like the new Cyberdramon, you can swing face at the end of the turn if your opponent has an unsuspended Digimon. And finally, there's a new archetypal tamer to accompany all of these cards, and of course, it's a Ryo Akiyama. Ryo has a start of main effect to place a device option card from your hand into the battle area to draw 1, offering you a bit of cycle to mitigate the inherent brickiness of playing all of these device cards. Ryo also has a main effect to suspend himself and trash 4 device cards in the battle area to play a Cyberdramon from the hand or trash for free. This is obviously very cool, but it's asking for a lot, and passing on a hard slammed Cyberdramon, well, you know, you can already do that and make a lot of progress anyway. Figuring out how Bandai wants you to play the new version of Justimon is a bit of a conundrum. You still need to set up your tamers like the classic build, but you also have all of these device cards that you want to be playing around with. And then obviously there's the awkward fact that you do need to stick a level 5 to get the most out of your Justimon ace. And with the new Cyberdramon being pretty good, it's not that hard, but you're still hard slamming a level 5 in a lot of cases. So, you know. And it is pretty obvious that this deck does want to leverage that new Cyberdramon and potentially the Ace variant as well to provide you both setup and, you know, manage the board while you're climbing up into that unaffected hero that is Justimon Ace. Ryo will help you cycle and brick a little less on your device cards, while also eliminating the memory cost of playing them out, at the cost, unfortunately, of not getting their initial effects, which is a big bummer. But, you know, once all of that setup is done, you're basically just doing cleanup with Justimon X and any rookie swings that you might have. It's not the most consistent thing in the world, but, you know, this is Justimon that we're talking about here. Now, Vortex runs a more OTK-focused approach to the deck, and I think the new pieces complement that pretty well, and make the best use of the new Justimon line overall. Becoming unaffected by Digimon effects means that enemy Ace Digimon won't necessarily interrupt your OTK, and redirection effects coming from Digimon will fizzle out as well, so you can essentially swing uncontested. Guardramon and Mercurymon both provide a measure of protection, which can allow your Cyberdramon to just crash into the opponent's Digimon relatively uncontested as well, setting up very nicely for that Justimon Ace play while you're at it. And of course, the Marvin Jackson package allows you to clinch your game-winning flurry of attacks with jamming backing you up, essentially fearing nothing when you pair that with Justimon Ace's immunity. It's a pretty straightforward build, but really, that's all you need to win, and in Justimon's case, you really shouldn't be complicating things more than that. Just punch your opponent in the face until they aren't standing anymore. Simple, Justimon may not get as much love as Gallantmon or Beelzemon, but Bandai has certainly been trying to give dedicated fans something to work with. And as is usually the case with black decks, the onus is really on you to patch up the holes and build something playable for yourself. And hey, there's certainly enough to work with now if you're looking for a pet deck to obsess over, and I honestly think you could do much worse than Justimon. Now, obviously, I have to say a big shout out to Vortex TCG for helping me out with this one. He proved an expert pilot and provided a ton of insight into Justimon's qualities. And I really couldn't have pulled this off without him, and it goes without saying that you should head on over to his channel for some absolutely fantastic coverage of this and many other decks. I really cannot recommend him enough. And of course, if you're hungry for more high quality Digimon TCG content in general, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I'm always taking recommendations and hunting for cool lists, and hey, if you're a fellow content creator looking to collab on something like this video right here, well, I'm happy to connect with you too. It's all for the love of the game, after all.